This is the Unshadowed Thought Podcast with James Hall. This podcast is dedicated to Michelle Goyevich, Ed White, Caitlin Treacle, and I Chan, and also all the others that have lost their life as a direct result of psychiatric harms. Okay, wanted to throw something out there. Don't know if I'm going to make a lot of casts in the future, just because just going to be working on myself. But for the people that find this that are really looking diligently for answers, I'm going to put these last thoughts out there about fasting that I'm learning right now. So I made it on this last fast. I made it 11 days before I stopped. This one was hard. I was nauseous. A lot of the time, I felt like I was going to throw up. All this stuff's documented. It happens. I was just really miserable. The 11 days of this fast felt like far longer than my 23 days on the last one. I don't know if my body wanted to fast this time. I think it wanted food. Like I would get these bouts of hunger that would pop up in the middle of the fast, which is not really when you lose your hunger is supposed to kind of stay away. I had these different signs that maybe it it wasn't the right time for it, but I just pushed through, and pushing through 11 days was hard enough. I was at my breaking point at the end. But something really credible and kind of profound happened. So people with psychiatric injury talk about this disconnection from their feelings and emotions, which is really profound and it's really horrible. Um, it's really what a big part of what defines us as human beings. So that deserves its whole own, you know, topic and conversation and thought and examination. But it's a real thing. It's one of the top complaints I get when people are hurt by transcranial magnetic stimulation. They say, I don't feel the love for my family anymore. I have no emotions. And then you have all this other unpleasant um, biological stuff happening too, like anxiety. Again, this isn't based on emotions. It's an extreme amount of stress, hormones and endorphins getting pushed through your body, and then fatigue. So your body being stripped of everything it needs to function quickly by the nervous system and going back and forth, and experiencing those physiological feelings with no corresponding emotions. Maybe some part of that is survival mechanism, and it's meant to keep you from being too traumatized because experiencing the emotions of going through that would be difficult. I don't know. I've thought about that before too, um, but yeah, aside from all that stuff that goes on, um, this is about fast. So when you're fasting, you're kind of loopy, right? But you experience more emotions. And I thought about this. Well, I've been thinking about it for a while, and I had a discussion with a good friend of mine, and she said that it's kind of like a kid, as I was describing it to her, that emotions aren't clearer, but you are more connected with your emotions and they come on quicker and more accurately and stuff like that. So it's like this emotional exercise the whole time on your fast. It's unrelenting, right? And after we talked, she was talking about kind of like a kid and these different things. And I was like, oh, it's authenticity. Your emotions are a lot more authentic when you're fasting. They're not out of range. You're not feeling things that you shouldn't be feeling. That's not it at all. But you're more authentic. So what's the significance here, right? Significance is after TMS injury, I felt zero human type emotions. I felt all kinds of sensations, unpleasant sensations in my body, but almost no human emotions for 5 years. And then I fast, right? So I mean, if you're looking at medical terms, medical science would quantify it as some sort of disease that was preventing me from experiencing human emotion, right? Is like, oh, you lost them, they're gone, like, or there's an injury that prevented them working, like in terms of brain function or something like that, right? But clearly that's not the case, right? Because you start fasting and now all of a sudden you have emotions again, right? But you don't really realize it because you're fasting. Your cognition is limited. You have limited brain capacity. You can't think real clearly. So you're not aware. It's almost like your body puts itself into a place of, I forget the word, but it's where you can't realize your own thoughts and actions very well. You're not really self-aware when you're fasting. So your emotions actually they come back, but you're not really aware of it, right? Because you also feel this dull kind of lack of cognition when you're fasting. And so you're not really aware that you're feeling emotions now is the way I'm seeing it now after my experiences. And so you're exercising emotion, you're using emotion, and things will happen, and you'll feel things, and things will go on. Lots of times people sit around mostly on the fast, which is kind of what you're supposed to do, but you're usually not exposed to a lot of emotional stimuli either, right? So as you're fasting, your emotions become more authentic and more real. There's when you're going through something hard like fasting, you can't put up a barrier between your emotions. You can't like see a little kid crying and being like, oh, it's not my kid, I don't care, right? No, you see it and you feel it and you experience it. And your brain won't allow you some of that cognitive function, that higher cognitive function, which we tend to use it as a destructive force to block stuff out. Like you just feel it. And so these are things I didn't notice on my fast, but I had this experience that I'll share with you in a moment. But so then that's what you're experiencing when you're fasting, but it's kind of magical. You're not really aware of it. But when you're done fasting, after I did my long fast, then I retained a lot of those emotions and I had a huge range of emotion compared to what I did after my TMS injury after my fast. And that was a huge part of why my fast was so beneficial, or it was one of the huge benefits from it. I got my emotions back that I hadn't had. Um, I don't know. I tell people this, and they don't. I'm kind of surprised at the lack of amazement people have at that. They're just like, "Oh, but you had to stop eating to do that." Oh, okay. No, I don't think so. Medical science, nor anybody that anybody knows can be like, here, let me hand you your emotions back to you that have been permanently severed, right? It's like it's miraculous. It's incredible. Like our bodies are doing this. They're for themselves. And the best medical science can do is that I'll drug and manipulate your nervous system in a barbaric way so that you feel something different and they don't even know what you're going to feel. Taking psychiatric drugs, you feel all kinds of weird stuff, but I never once have ever heard of anybody or did I ever experience anything that felt proportionate and normal and balanced and authentic. If they say they do something to help you emotionally, it is not, no, it's not real. It's like, it's not a good fit, right? Like it doesn't give you what you're looking for. It gives you something else. So fasting, it gives you that, or at least for me. Um, I've read a lot on it. I've talked to a lot of people. Everyone seems to experience the same thing, but they have a very, very difficult time quantifying it and discussing it and sharing it. And emotional things are really ethereal, like it's hard. So the reason why I thought this podcast would be important is because I'm quantifying and discussing something that happens on the fast that people just don't get and don't understand or don't articulate well. And that's not a negative on anybody. It's incredibly difficult to do. I had to talk through someone with this for a while to even be able to quantify it and talk about it myself. So that's what I'm talking about right now. And I'm just going to ramble on about it. And that's what I'm doing. So for me, I was unaware that I was experiencing this on my last fast, my 11-day fast. But then when I got off the fast, I had this moment where I felt very bad all of a sudden. I got really stressed out. It was in the evening. I was kind of left by myself. I got very lonely. I got this weird sensation, right? And then I kind of started panicking about feeling badly after the fast. I thought maybe I'd hurt myself on the fast, which wasn't true at all. Feeling great now. But So I sat down and kind of started self-soothing, relaxing myself, um, thinking through what was happening to me and stuff like that. And then I felt really blank and empty. And I was thinking emotional thoughts, but I wasn't feeling any emotions. So I actually had this lack of connection to my emotions for a while. And it reminded me very quickly of the way I felt right after my TMS injury. And I said, okay, this is horrible. Like I'm freaking out, right? And then I started asking myself, why are you freaking out? Where does this come from? Why does this feel so bad right now? I felt like my life was ending in that moment. And I'm like, why do I feel like that? Why do I feel that badly about this? Well, I realized that was the first day I was refeeding after my fast. And what I realized was that I hadn't felt that way for the previous 11 days. For the previous 11 days, I had felt very proportionate, connected, very proportionate emotions, and I was very connected to my emotions. So my emotions were extremely imbalanced, which is not super typical for someone that has a brain injury. And some people can't articulate that well, and I can't articulate that well, but this is my effort to do that, right? So when I had an anomaly with my emotions kind of pop up, I realized that on the fast, even though I couldn't see what was happening to me on the fast, after the fast, just stepping outside of it, I was like, wow, my emotions were really balanced and authentic. And I was really connected to my emotions, and I felt normal emotionally for the first time in an incredibly long time since before my experience fasting, but since the fast, I've been very connected and balanced emotionally. And this is the whole problem with psychiatry, and the mental health crisis, whatever you want to call it, right? Is that people are getting out of touch with their emotions. And I think it's a physiological, state that's happening in their bodies. And there's no exercise you can do to balance your emotions. Like the answer is like talk therapy and drugs. Drugs are not going to give you any balance with that. It's not possible. And so talk therapy, then that's you're working through different things or whatever. You're trying to talk your way or ideologically get your way to a place where you could have balance again. And I don't know if that's necessarily true either. You can do a lot of really powerful constructive things there, but can you get yourself to a state where you're authentic and in touch with your emotions and they're balanced? Like when I say balance, I mean there's this adage, I guess, of the Dalai Lama. He's meeting with some people in the West, I guess, and he goes into the meeting, and as he's going into the meeting, one of his buddies comes up and is like, "Hey, these monks just killed themselves. They lit themselves on fire, and sacrificed themselves to for this purpose, like this social purpose, right?" And then like he cries and he sobs, and then he kind of moves on a moment later, and then other people come in. He's a part of this meeting or whatever, maybe with Western folks or whatever, I don't know. And then they tell him a joke, right? And he laughs really, really hard. And then one of the people from the newsroom or whatever is like, "Hey, why aren't you still upset? Like these monks lit themselves on fire." And he's like, "Oh, well, I am very upset. I was very upset, but that was a good joke, and I laughed really hard, right?" So this is important because it's a perfect example of what happens when you're fasting. You can experience a full range of things in a moment, and then in the next moment, be free to completely experience something else that is just as important, right? And this may sound subtle, but it's incredibly important because, and this is what I'm just realizing now. I did not know this before, right? Think about all the stress in your life, any depression, upset, things you hold on to. All those things come from not experiencing everything that belongs in that moment, and then moving on to the next completely unencumbered and just not filing that stuff away. Like you process it that moment, has its relevance then, and then it's done. And then you're over, you're moving on to the next thing, and you can experience a full range of emotion with the next thing. No, we carry things from moment to moment, and then we end up carrying things for a very long time that then affect our thoughts and emotions constantly in tons of different ways, right? And I can feel and I can see that my whole life. And yet when I'm fasting, somehow like someone will come up to me and be like, "Hey, you owe me $500 for this." And I'm just like, "Okay, whatever. Give him $500." or give them nothing, whatever, however the situation works out, right? And then just move on. Like I'm not, or if I say I can't pay them and I start can't pay you right now, they're like, well, you need to pay me tomorrow. Be like, okay, I'll move on, and no stress, zero stress. I don't care, not at all, not even slightly, right? I'll be like, all right, I'll handle it tomorrow. I might go home and do something to even get the $500 together or whatever, right? But it doesn't bother me to do that. I mean, not disproportionately, just a little bit. I might have a little bit of stress in the moment, right? But it doesn't carry. And then once I pay the guy, it's done, it's gone, it's over. I'll be laughing the next minute, right? I'll be doing whatever the next minute, having fun, running in circles, doing whatever, right? So the implications for this are profound beyond anything I can think of, because when you're fasting, you're practicing that authentic emotion and you're getting yourself back into a state where you have that balance and whatnot that you cannot. By my thinking right now, of course, is really limited. Haven't thought about it for 5 years, just thought about it for a couple days, but being able to exercise that and get back to that state, I don't think there's any other way you could do it besides being in this state of fasting. Or meditation. Like I've done meditations and I can get to that state, but it doesn't carry as quite as well, you know? And it takes, and then you have to maintain, at least for me, I have to maintain the meditation constantly, like to keep myself kind of in that state of non-attachment, right? So with fasting, and also I have times where if I'm so worked up, I can't meditate, right? There's different issues with meditation. I'm trying to work through them for myself, but that's the only other thing I can think is similar. But with fasting, it's man, it's like forcible meditation almost. Like because when you're fasting, like when you're meditating, you can get distracted by all sorts of things. When you're fasting, it doesn't work. Like someone could be screaming and shooting outside your house, and you'd be like, oh man, that doesn't sound good out there, right? And you just keep watching your show. Or whatever, you know? So there's really big implications for it. You're talking about maybe physiologically deprogramming your body from decades of stress and struggle when it would take the same amount of time to maybe try to do that, like talk through that and meditate and change your physiology through finding more relaxation and rehashing your history so that you understand it better and you can accept it and move on, right? This is just seems so much more advanced and more radically helpful than that. I mean, fasting itself is a radical thing, but in this context, like, is it worth it? You know, I think for myself, this last fast was really difficult. I realized I still don't have enough experience fasting, like with longer fasts. So instead of trying to do really long fasts, maybe I need to do some more intermediate fasts and get really comfortable fasting and how my body's responding after the fast and during the fast before I try to go on these 30-day fasting benders, and to set that as a goal because it's really like I get really stressed out when I don't make the goal or I think my life's over because like I just never going to heal because I can't do what I need to do, right? I get caught in these thoughts. But coming off this last fast, I don't feel that way because I have some perspective because just going for 11 days was enough to really dramatically change things so far. I'm waking up every morning and I feel fantastic, like I actually rested and slept. Whereas I guess since my last fast has gotten away from me a little bit, but there's definitely a natural cadence and rhythm to fasting and to what it does for your mind and to keeping things in balance, and it's incredibly powerful. But for those who are really thinking about healing from psychiatric injury or from other injuries, there is nothing else you can do that would even come close in terms of like there's nothing that would allow you to just instantly get back in touch with your emotions and start finding emotional balance and authenticity when you've just been completely blank for years. There's just no could there be something? Sure, maybe there's something I'm not thinking of, but there's nothing that I've run into, and I've been searching diligently for 5 years. There's nothing that comes even close. And a lot of people, they just don't believe it. But of course they haven't done it and they're unwilling to do it and they think they know better and they think they're super intelligent because they've read all the books and all the stuff on it. But I'll tell you the stuff that I'm telling you now. I don't know if it's ever been quantified at all by anyone ever about fasting. Um, Certainly not well. Certainly not that I know of. Um, suppose I might be surprised if no one had covered it in some way. But I'm sure there are people that have talked about it. But in the way that a Western mind can understand it practically, I'm not sure if that's true. But I would love to hear if it did, if anyone did or anyone tried. It just people seem to be really empirical and pragmatic about it. But I don't think that's real helpful. I mean, they can look at the medical results all they want, but there's far more value to it than that. And people should be able to understand what really goes on and what transpires when they make the choice, because it is something difficult. Fasting is and can be very difficult. It will challenge every single person that does it. Some people have been practicing it and are relaxed or in a good state of health, and I think it goes really easy for those people. Other people, like myself and others who have things that are diseases or injuries that need to be healed, like you have to go through the healing process during fasting. So you have to go through the pain and the change that it takes to come through that during fasting. This is not like, oh, I fasted. And then it's not like taking a pill where you think, oh, I have an infection and I take a pill and tomorrow it's gone. And then I didn't feel anything. It's just gone. Right. That's how the Western mind tends to think about things. That's not it. No, 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 no. That's not what we're going for. That's not appropriate or necessary or applicable. Right. With fasting, when you enable your body and you free up the neurological bandwidth for your body to take care of itself, it has to go in and make the root cause change to whatever is going on, and including your emotions and your nervous system, your stomach, all those things. So feeling nauseous, feeling emotionally upset, feeling pain all over your body. I had this time just snot just started running for like no reason. I had no idea why, but just a ton of snot's coming out and just dumping it out. Your body is making a change that it needs to change. Like it's not just this isn't like so just it's not just like magically overnight disintegrating any and all bad cells that are in there or whatever. That's not how it works. It goes through a process of change that you will feel and experience in order to get to a different place. It's very it's very rustic, it's very real, it's very nature, it's very involved. It requires the full attention of a human being. So so yeah, that's what I wanted people to think about. I wanted to give people some perspective on that. But the fast does something very, very important to you emotionally. It works your emotions. It turns your emotions back on. It gives you a healthy balance for your emotions as if you were a child again. And so when you experience that, and you look at that as a great reset or the attempt to make a reset, it's like a therapeutic kind of action to get you closer to a reset, to get you closer to where you want to be or where you need to be and put you back into balance. And it can give you so much perspective on all these things as well, intellectually, but it also gives you the physiological start to get there as well. So something I wanted to share, I thought it was critical. Of course, if I find any other things that are super important, I'll put them on too. But still focused on getting better this year. So probably not going to cast for a while. But if anybody's listening, I hope you're well. Stay well. Take care of yourself. I'll talk to you soon.